Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
Good Morning Uganda Extra, UBC TV, an extension of Good Morning Uganda. Robert Chirabunyo to know in case you've just joined, but I won't forget to remind you that every weekday we begin our broadcast, a live broadcast of this morning show at exactly 6:30. So why not make it a date with us? In case this is your first time, please make it a date. Tomorrow 6:30, start your day with us. You won't regret it. The Fantastic Four, well, there's so much interesting laughters to cheer up, to spice your morning, but also very informative, yet you get to know what is happening globally and internationally. Now, in this extension, I have a very interesting guest. Personally, I have an attachment to her regarding my career as a journalist. The person I'm hosting today is one of the people actually that inspired me to join journalism. Way back in secondary when I used to watch this person, that was in high school. She had a very lovely morning show on one of the TVs, and I would wake up. My father enjoyed watching her like nothing. So I picked interest, who is this person? And I fell in love with the show because of her. And of course, there are about three people that inspired me. One is the guest I have today, the other is late Bale Francis, and a man who used to write a column known as The Old Fox in one of the dailies. Mention those three people, I'll have a smile on my face. Guess who I have? That is the president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda, Tina Wamala. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much, Robert. To be honest, that's the best intro I've ever received. Being, knowing that I inspired you, inspired your career, where you are today. It's really heartwarming that I had an impact, however small, during my time in journalism.
We miss you on TV.
That's why I'm here. It's nostalgic for me. It's nostalgic for me to be here. It brings back wonderful memories, and TV will always be my base. It will always be where I began. It's what I call home in terms of my career.
Now, to begin with, you're the president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda.
Yes.
Well, what is this about? What do you do? Many people actually have come to understand, many TV personalities, radio personalities, at one time, there's a dream to be a public relations officer for some institution.
Absolutely. So PROUD, Public Relations Association of Uganda, is a 47-year-old association. It's an umbrella body that brings together PR professionals, communication specialists in Uganda, both from the private and public sector, as well as students, together for us to enhance and promote public relations excellence in Uganda. So our mandate is strictly to ensure the advancement and excellence of public relations and communications in our country. Yes.
Now, this also brings me to ask, how has the landscape of communication, public relations, and creative industry evolved? Like when I talk about your days in one of the, that was Record TV then,
absolutely,
and what it is today, there's slightly a number of changes.
Absolutely. You know, obviously, that we're living in the digital era. The smartphones have taken over the world. iPads have taken over the world. So we are seeing an increased internet penetration across the board, not just in Uganda. Of course, our penetration is not as high as other countries, whether in the region or continent, but there's definitely a growth in internet penetration. People consume their news online.
True.
People gain access to information online. People are just generally embracing online communication. So as communicators, we have to be in that space. We can't afford to be left behind thinking that traditional media is sufficient. We have to move with the times, move with the trends, be present whether on social media, be present on digital platforms. We've also seen an increase in what we call digital marketing, because now organizations know that everybody's online, the attention span of people is online. Advertisers are going to online platforms. So you see a lot of Google alerts, for example. You see a lot of banners on different social media sites. That's what we call digital marketing as a way of making sure that we are in people's faces, we are in our audience's faces, because we know they are consuming news online because of the wonderful platform that internet has introduced. Then we've also seen the rise of social media influencers. A lot of the time now, and I'm sure you've seen this in the recent times, how influencers are shaping public opinion. We've seen the exhibitions in Uganda, from the health exhibitions to the portal exhibitions, and we've seen that now citizens their voices are heard, they're amplified, they have reason now to shape public opinion. They're seeking for accountability and transparency across various sectors, which is leading a lot of organizations to stay on their toes, because they know that now people will not only listen to official spokespeople, but even citizens have a very strong voice. Those who have the potential to reach wider audiences, a wider market. It's imperative now that we pay attention to what people are saying online. The engagement. The fact that now we're able to engage with each other in real time, provide feedback, provide accountability, speak to one another, improve on our services, that is something we never had in the past. In the past, you were kind of like limited to like one mode of communication. You would consume it and it would end there. But now you can actually engage. You can provide solutions. You can be part of the problem-solving initiatives. Generally, that engagement level with our consumers has really helped us as communicators to improve on our services. Because ultimately, organizations exist because of our consumers, because of our customers. We need to ensure that we meet their needs and expectations. So by listening to them, because of the rise of digital media, social media, it has really helped us to enhance.
What does this leave the professionals? Because today, yes, something happens. A professional, you want to go edit, balance, have a fully packaged story. While someone has a mobile phone, shoots whatever, throws there. So in terms of story breaking, in terms of the principles of journalism, accuracy, timely, you're beaten in terms of timely. You could be accurate, but you're beaten. You know, today influencers, some even when certain things happen, the world is waiting for their analytical perspective or opinion, which may not necessarily be the right opinion, but the world is waiting. And actually, even when the right comes, there is a war in authenticating or saying which one is better truth. I know many of these influencers, even if it's security, they are there, they know nothing. Even if it is health, they are there, they know nothing. But their opinion matters, and we are at a race of who to believe.
You've touched on a very strong point, breaking news. Now, unfortunately, traditional media doesn't have that monopoly of breaking news. You rightly said it. I can be crossing the road just here at UBC, and I use my phone to capture something I've seen on the road, and I put it on my Twitter or on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn or whatever. The fact that now power has shifted from traditional media to literally the palm of somebody's hands is a very dangerous thing. But at the same time, it's also a great opportunity. I think it makes us as organizations, us as communicators, much more accountable. There is need, therefore, for us to be proactive. There's need for us to be awake to the expectations of our customers. We need to proactively communicate our positive messaging, where we've gone wrong, apologize. Where things are not quite working out, we apologize, we give notices. We need to ensure that we're proactively engaging and communicating. Because like you said, breaking news is no longer a monopoly of traditional media. Social media has totally wiped that out. But therein, customers are also very smart to know that they can't 100% believe everything they hear or see on social media or read. So the traditional media still has a sense of authenticity and legitimacy that social media doesn't quite have. The fact that traditional media does fact-checking, accuracy of news, you provide analytics. It's a holistic reporting style that social media, unfortunately, doesn't provide. Social media is really, really very subjective, and the audience is awake to that. They are alert to that. But it doesn't mean that we take it for granted. We as communicators organizations generally need to proactively be ahead of the curve, one step forward in terms of communicating.
This also brings me to the impact of technology here.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things is technology is very diverse.
Yeah.
It keeps on changing.
Yeah.
And the other side is also expensive.
Yes.
I imagine today when you go to a forum and public relations officer comes up, you know, sometimes some are seen as, would I use the word, defenders?
Yes, it's actually true. It's actually true.
When I sit in, many a times, like, well, the public relations of this is here, so I say, okay. But then there's technology at the back of it.
Absolutely.
So as you're giving, someone is cross-checking facts and all that. So what has been the impact of technology in this profession? Has it been a blessing? Is it a painful joy? You know?
A little bit of both, but more of a blessing. I think technology has opened up so many avenues for us to be great storytellers, to be more compelling in how we send out our messages. So, like I said, the palm of your hands, that power of the palm of your hands communication has also made us creative in the way we storytell. So now we have all these amazing platforms to our disposal, from video editing platforms to being exposed to global trends, international trends, how things are done. We see a lot of tutorials online from YouTube, you name it, where we can learn and enhance. We also have greater exposure to potential collaborators or partners in how things are done because of technology. Before, in the past, we had that middleman or the hindrance to how we'd access each other. But now the world is a global village because of technology. You can pick up your phone, align with someone in the US, in the UK, or whatever, and learn from each other, exchange, that person can become your mentor or vice versa, learn from each other and use and apply whatever you've learned from that person in your day-to-day work here at UBC. So there's an element of keeping us alert to the trends and to the times we're in, to make sure that we are very much aware of what is happening and changing in our communication landscape. It gives us avenues to storytell, to be creative. We can no longer afford to be boxed in or to be very traditional in the way we go about our storytelling. So it has primarily been more of a positive, more of a blessing than a curse.
Well, very interesting there. I just remind you, our viewer, that we'll later on be moving to the office of the Prime Minister, where the NRM manifesto weeks are still going on, and what they're focusing on is really being accountable to Ugandans. When they came up with the manifesto in 2021, the document, the contract we have with the current government under the NRM party leadership, so they're giving accountability to Ugandans, that this is what we've been able to implement. So in case we move to that, it's also something very important to the nation for you to know how far. Remember, it was securing your future and, of course, inclusive wealth creation and prosperity. Anytime when we head there, please, just something to let you know. I'm still with Tina Wamala, the president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda. What does a PR or person do?
So we are the link between the public and the organization. Our role is to ensure we disseminate the communication on news or activities of our organization to the public. So we are the intermediary between the organization and the public, and vice versa. So we are very much in charge of brand awareness, brand positioning, protecting the reputation, like you say, defending the reputation of our organization. We're in charge of crisis management, God forbid, should it arise. We have a very, very important role of shaping the narrative, of shaping perception, what people think about our organization. Of course, the organization needs to be seen in a positive light throughout. And that takes me back to what I said earlier about proactive communication. What positive messages do you have to say about your organization? What are those key things, areas of impact you have had to customers, and how are you making sure that they're continually churned out? So our role is really to protect and maintain a strong, healthy reputation for our organization, so that customers are endeared, continue to consume our products, our services, our messages, our policies, you name it.
How do you balance truth, facts, and organization image?
Good question. It takes us to ethics. Because similar to journalism, we have tenets upon which we need to abide by as communicators, as PR people. One of which is accuracy. We must ensure that our message is accurate to the vision and mission of our organization. A lot of times people call us spin doctors, people, propagandists, but that's not who we are or are trying to be. Our role, like I said, is to ensure that the messaging of our organization is accurate and clear as it's stated in our company policy, the mission and vision out there to our customers. So accuracy is one of them. Truth, honesty is another. People of integrity, we need to ensure that we're people of integrity. And I'm sure you've seen, Robert, lately, a lot of organizations are very willing to apologize. You've seen utility companies, very, very good at proactive messaging. There's not going to be electricity in this area and this area on such and such a date. We apologize for any inconveniences caused. Water does the same thing. So it's no longer a bad thing to be in the wrong, quote unquote. It's no longer a bad thing when service delivery is not up to par. The most important thing is, how are you managing the relationship with the customers? How are you ensuring that they are aware of the reasons why it's happening and when it's going to be resolved? So truthfulness is another. Integrity, like I touched on earlier, is also very important. We are required to be role models, people of repute in our operations. So we need to ensure that in terms of those, we adhere. We adhere.
Now, another one of the hardest work, I must say, is being a public relations officer for armed forces or security. Brother Enanga, I salute you. Thank you so much for the good work you're doing. And of course, comrade and brother Brigadier General Felix Kulaije. Comrade also Frank Baine of Uganda prisons. Maximum respect to you. That is one of the areas that was very, very easy to be a public to be a spokesperson for. But continuing, Tina, when we talk about this association, I'm so interested. What are the qualifications? Is it someone who has had experience in media? Can anyone come up and say, well, come, I think you're a good speaker. Come and do public relations for us?
So we've been struggling with this for a number of years. As I said in my intro, PRAO is now 47 years old. The umbrella body started in 1976. And we have clear guidelines upon which someone is eligible to join the association. However, our association is one of the most, our profession rather, is one of the most riddled professions by all kinds of masqueraders. You'll forgive me, but comedians join public relations, DJs join public relations. Someone across the street thinks that just because they look nice, they speak well, that they can do PR. But we are introducing a bill shortly where we are going to be very specific on the guidelines upon which someone can join public relations. But the basic ones are as follows. As I touched on earlier, if you're a student of public relations, communications, you are eligible to join the association. If you have worked in the profession for 2 years or longer and have clearly shown growth, you have evidence of successful campaigns you've rolled out, you are eligible to join the profession. There are also the so-called veterans who you know of. I think I'm one of them, I hope so, who have done amazing work across the board, across the sector throughout their careers. Those are also considered. And then we have the people who might be interested, but not necessarily have the educational backing. Yeah, we can support them through short courses, which we're also going to introduce with our partner organizations to upskill them, sharpen their skills, give them the basic requirements that a public relations person needs. Because we can no longer afford to have people in public relations who have, for example, poor writing skills, poor crisis management skills, poor brand awareness skills. There's really an important element there which we can't take for, we can't dilute our profession to that extent by just letting anyone in. So we're going to be quite intentional with who we let into our association, because like engineers, doctors, lawyers, we want to protect our profession because it's arguably one of the most important professions out there.
While you're still watching Good Morning Uganda Extra, Robert Chirabo with Tina Wamala, the president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda, still looking at the changing landscape of communication, public relations, and creative space. Now, when you talk about the changing landscape, what have been the outstanding challenges?
Quite a number, and I'm sure you already know some of them. There's still a very big digital divide. I'm sure your grandmother, father are not, unfortunately, on social media, let alone they might not even have a smartphone. So there's still a very big difference, if you like, between the haves and the have-nots in terms of internet accessibility, infrastructure, access to these communication tools that we in urban centers are very fortunate to have. So the digital divide is still in existence today. So the conversations you have online through social media, you very well know are going to be limited to a specific group, a niche market, your peers, your colleagues. But now if you're talking to the older generation, if you like, quote unquote, you have to use different methods, like it or not. The second you touched on is misinformation or fake news. There's a lot of people going out there talking, rumors spreading, very, very many of them for the wrong reasons, to be honest. So misinformation or fake news is a very big challenge that we continue to face in Uganda. But as I touched on earlier, traditional media has a very big up on there, in the sense that the fact that you do fact checking, you're accurate in your reporting, you're holistic in your reporting, can curb misinformation. And then there's obviously the cultural or language barriers to basically the digital divide. You'll find that a lot of the communication is limited to maybe the English speakers, so it cuts off a very large group of people who also need to be aware about what's happening. So there's a need for us to tailor our communication to speak to the different audiences so that we don't leave them behind.
Then that brings me to how the education system and trainers can be able to prepare future professionals in connection to the changing landscape.
So the first is to review our curriculum. I mean, that is the starting point, honestly. We can no longer afford to have curriculums we had in the 90s or early 2000s, because communications, the landscape is changing every single time. I think now you know that we've been the artificial intelligence is almost taking over very soon. So we have to be ahead of the curve. We can't afford to think that whatever content we've been teaching over the last 23 years is still relevant. It may still be relevant, but there's a need for us to revise and review it to the current times. I believe so much in what we call benchmarking. And the benchmarking, not just in your country, benchmarking regionally, benchmarking internationally, because oftentimes you'll be exposed to the realities of things when you see what other countries are doing or what other countries are experiencing, and the way to know that is through benchmarking. Learn from them, hear from them, see what they're doing, because that gives you an idea of what's coming in your country. If we're a little bit far behind, then you can clearly see where we're heading to by seeing what's happening in other countries. So that element of benchmarking is extremely important as well.
Now, has the public, particularly in Uganda, appreciated this profession and taken it serious? Why am I asking so? When you move outside, more so say the developed world, the Western world, every organization looks at hiring a professional public relations officer. Coming back home, many think they can speak, they can do public relations. If we are a group and we start up a company, well, I may be a fisherman, but I want to do the damage control, image, branding, you know.
Yeah.
When we are a group of traders, as I say, you are a spokesperson, appointing. Have we understood and taken this very serious?
The answer is yes and no. And I'll justify my answer. Yes, in the sense that you're right. Almost every serious organization now realizes the importance of having a public relations specialist within their organization, because they've realized that now that need to communicate, that need to engage with our customers, that need to continually get feedback and improve on services and products is important. So the public relations person is in charge of that.
And because this is a managemental position.
I was coming to that.
Yes.
The unfortunate bit under the no is, unfortunately, PR is not yet seen as a managerial function. It's not yet seen as a strategic function. So you'll find a lot of organizations that have marketing and PR, for example, or the PR person reports to the marketing person, which is wrong, because as public relations, as I said earlier, our role within the organization frames how people think, shapes how people perceive us. It's literally what makes or breaks the organization. So without a seat in the boardroom, at the table, at the high table, without knowing the strategic thinking or direction of the organization, it is very difficult for us to do our job, because you don't have sight of the plans, the direction, or the decisions that are being made if you're not at the table. So yes, we can clearly see intent from a lot of organizations to include, to recruit more public relations people. However, strategically or managerially, they're not yet realizing that we need a seat at the table. And like you rightly said, a fisherman, any random person thinks they can do public relations, but it's getting to a point where there are skills, certain skill set that a PR person needs to have. Public speaking being one of them, writing skills, media relations. It's a whole host of things that people can't take for granted. A lot of people take it for granted that they can learn on the job, which is fine, but it then takes longer for you to make impact when you don't have the basic skills.
Well, very interesting there. And actually, when I was in journalism school, one of the things I learned that this is a managerial position.
Thank you.
So when I came out and I saw how you go to offices, you go to an PRO, and I'm like, for sure, does this? You know, I thought it was something very serious. And you then, no, my son is a PRO. Like, oh, goodness me. Maybe this is why I come to my next question. What steps are being put in place to promote ethical and responsible communication in this specific industry?
Brilliant question, Robert, really brilliant. I touched on the bill, which we hope to be rolling out soon. This bill is going to be a framework upon which every public relations and communications specialists need to adopt, adhere for their ethical practice in Uganda. Because we can no longer afford to be seen as liars, as propagandists. We can no longer be seen as only crisis managers, because there's much more to what we do than crisis management and other things people think. So this is going to frame, under it is going to be what we call a code of ethics or ethical code of conduct. And I touched on some of the things earlier. Integrity being one of them, honesty being another, accuracy being another, being factual, being empathetic to our customers. These are expectations we have of every public relations person. But it's also driven by organizational policies, of course. Every organization has its own policies that as an employee you are a signatory to, which you abide by. So it's very important that you abide by your organizational policies to ensure that you're in tune with the expectations of your employer in carrying out your work. So the organizational policies also have a very big role. The educational institutions have a big role. Because like you said, Robert, in your time in university, you were taught certain skills. They were basically bombarding with different messaging about journalism. The same should apply for communications. It starts from there. What are you teaching students about ethics in communications? I personally believe that ethics is one of the most, if not biggest, modules that students need to learn. Ethical standards, ethical expectations in communication. So that when they get into the job market, they know what's expected of them. And then of course us, the people who've been there, the mentors, how are we supporting them? How are we leading them, guiding them in their career to make sure that they follow a certain standard of ethics that we expect of them?
Oh, just reminded me of that paper, Media Ethics. Whoa.
It was a hard one. It was a hard one.
And of course, even PR was a unit there. Wasn't something to laugh about. But well, allow me to go for a short break. I'll return with Tina Wamala. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
The Magical Egypt Tour 2023 is here. A heavenly miracle waiting across the natural and divine attractions of Egypt, such as Cairo, Giza Pyramids, Saqqara, Memphis, and many more that will offer the gift of a lifetime. The chance to unlock all of the hidden powers of mind and soul, gain the enlightenment of the past and the future, and develop the power of healing. Departure will be Friday 16th up to 23rd June 2023. Basic package starting at $1,200, 8 days and 7 nights. To register, come to Gotove Tours and Travel at Nalkwego Complex Suta, Uganda Exta, George Street, Nakasero, or call +256 758 530 059 or +256 784 568 392 or WhatsApp +256 782 556 078. Only few slots are left. Powered by UBC Television.
Eyange irisiti tompa bidara irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti tompa bidara irisiti ojja kumpa irisiti tompa bidara mpa irisiti yange.
That's right. Insist on getting your e-receipt. It's your ticket to fantastic prizes, including motorbikes, laptops, fridges, and a fully paid 6-day safari for 2 in Uganda. Take a picture of your e-receipt, upload it to the URA website or mobile app, and you could be the lucky winner. The more receipts you upload, the higher your chances of winning. Terms and conditions apply. More details on our social media channels.
Uganda Revenue Authority, developing Uganda together.
Kayo, naye ddala oyagala kuba akinga okuze.
Kuvuga ennyonyi.
Okakasa gwe Kayongo ovuga ennyonyi.
Usemesa kuvuga ennyonyi.
Uganda Aviation Expo 2023 mwoleso gwa nnyonyi nga guli ku kisaawe Entebbe. Leta abaana balabe bayige ku misomo gy'ebyennyonyi. Naawe omusuubuzi omutambuze oba oyagala okulambula Uganda, jangu okuyingira shinja $5,000, ennyonyi ya $2,000, ate mwe abagala VIP $30,000. Baasi zino zidaboddeeka zakubanona ku City Square ebusega ku Express Highway ne Nambole obutasukka ssaawa 7 otambulira bwereere. Amasomero agayigiriza abaana ebyennyonyi muleete abayizi mu Uganda Aviation Expo 2023 wali Entebbe ku kisaawe okuva nga 22 paka nga 24 June.
This isn't just a girl. She is the future. This is a teacher, a doctor, a community leader, our future president. She is the hope of our community. And as a community leader, I will talk to others about how we must protect her against child marriage and teenage pregnancy because it affects us all. We each have a role to play in empowering our teenage girls to protect them from pregnancy. Because when we empower them, we empower our nation. Protect the girl, save the nation.
Take action. Report any case of defilement or child marriage to the police or call Sawuti 116.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda Extra.
welcome back from that break, and thank you so much for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra, an extension of Good Morning Uganda. I'm Robert Chirabonyonyitono, in case you have just joined, and my guest this morning is Tina Wamala, who happens to be the president of the Public Relations Association of Uganda. We are discussing the changing landscape of communication, public relations, and creative space in Uganda. One of the things that we all must agree to is public relations is slowly but surely gaining grip in Uganda. And I talk about professionals in this industry. Its impact, an organization that has a public relations officer, a professional one, will tell you how easy it is and smooth to operate and carry on work. Those that don't have still will tell how challenging it is. But one thing also, Tina, that comes up here is we have a number of associations in Uganda, not for public relations. But one of the things I find very strange is their capacity to regulate members. Forgive me, I'll pick one that I cherish, the Uganda Law Society. That even when one of their own makes some mistake, you see they come on board. So for this association, how far does your mandate go? Let me talk about journalism. You have a number of associations.
Absolutely.
But even when one goes astray, there isn't much. We'll look at it's basically membership. We have to do charity. We have to get money. Now these days we go to circles. We buy land. We do this. But carrying on the watchdog role to maintain professionalism is something that many of these associations lack.
And that's where our bill comes in, which I touched on earlier. We feel that this bill will help us to regulate our members much more than we have in the past. Because right now it's a voluntary, in the sense that membership is voluntary in nature. But this bill is going to make
we use the word free entry, free exit. We love that. It's like my own will. I came in this association and I can willingly and I can leave.
Exactly. But if you call yourself a competent communication specialist or PR specialist in Uganda, once this bill is passed, you have to be automatically, you will have to join the you will have to be part of the membership, like it or not. Because that way we can regulate all these unethical practices that we are seeing. We can regulate how work is done. We can create a framework for best practice public relations and the expectations we have generally as a body that can guide organizations with what they should see, what they should look for, and what they should expect from their public relations person. So this bill, and that's where the likes of Uganda Law Society are really, really, really great. And I touched on the fact that there are professions out there that are really organized and structured in how they do things. And for public relations, we want to get to that point as well, because now more than ever, in this century that we're in, because of digital platforms, because of the changing landscape in communications, we need to regulate how communications is churned out, because we can't afford to lose grip. In as much as citizen journalism is alive and awake and more promoted now, we still have a mandate as communicators to fulfill. And by regulating us, regulating how we perform and practice, will support efforts around that.
Now, where do you see the future of this profession? And of course, I would ask as the president, where do you want to drive this? It's been around for some time.
Yeah,
47
years.
47 years. Older than a number of our viewers.
Yeah, all of us.
Even the bush was struggle. So where do we see this?
So there's definitely going to be, can I call it like more of an integration, whether we like it or not. As communicators, as PROs, we need to embed ourselves with what is happening in our times, in our lives. And that calls for adoption, that calls for learning, that calls for embracing technologies, whether we like it or not. because I said this and I'll continue to say this throughout this interview, we cannot afford to be left behind. Technology is evolving at such a fast pace that we must be part of that evolution to be relevant within our profession and in our organizations. So there's a need for us to be ahead of the curve, embrace these technologies, use these technologies for our advantages, because they have many advantages, one of which is information dissemination. The fact that consumption can be reached at to a wider audience at a quicker rate is incredible. Something that we've not had in many years. But digital platforms have given us that allowance to have instantaneous communication, engagement with our customers, regular feedback, regular learning from one another, benchmarking, which I touched on. So that there is need for us to be ahead of that. So integrating our communication efforts with using technology as a lever are very important for us. And we are going to do that because by learning from our partner or sister associations, the International Public Relations Association and others around the globe, we will make sure that we are in tune with what's happening around the world to ensure that we are relevant in Uganda and we adopt to the changing times. So that is very important. The fact that now that we're going to put the customer at the helm, it has always been the case, but it's going to be more pronounced now. And we're going to be smart in how we go about it by recruiting what we call advocates within our customer base, to make them our voices, to make them our influencers, to help us amplify our messaging. Because we realize that now the customer doesn't always want to hear from the official spokesperson. Sometimes it's nice for them to hear from Robert, who has been impressed by PROW. Oh my goodness, I interacted with the PROW president. You saying, coming from an authentic place, that you're happy with the services, you're happy with the interaction, is much more authentic than me coming here and talking very positively about it. So using the customer to support, to advocate our messaging will be another strategy that we're going to employ. Having that listening culture. That listening culture is very important because we cannot continue to claim or believe or think or know that we know everything. That listening culture from different stakeholders, because we have the internal stakeholder to worry about, the external stakeholder, the customer, etc. We are going to have that. We're going to incorporate that listening culture in communications, because now more than ever we have to tailor. We have to tailor our direction, our policies, our activities to the needs of what people out there are saying about us. So that is also something that we plan to incorporate going forward.
Well, it's fairly a long distance.
Yes, but we're getting there. We're making good steps.
Uphill task. And this brings me to not so much a question many people would love me to ask, but I know I have to ask it, because we are looking at an association of PRO people now. With so much to do, how do you intend to achieve this, Tina?
Well,
voluntarily, this is an association, there is no mandated subscription. You know, I'm now talking finances to be open.
Understood. So we have strategies for fundraising as an association. 47-year-old is no mean feat. Making an association that's 47 years old is no mean feat. But it also demonstrates to you that people value PR. It has grown as a profession, like you said. It has captured the market, like it or not. So whenever we knock on people's doors, they're happy. They realize, they value, and they understand the importance of public relations. And most importantly, they understand our vision. They understand what we're attaining or what we're trying to attain. So a lot of our activities are going to be tailored to the needs of the market. Capacity building being one of them. And through capacity building, it's a resource or income generating avenue, like it or not. Partnerships are another, because we have a lot of activities that are going to be regional in nature that Uganda will be hosting, where we feel like now we definitely need partners like UBC to support us amplify our messaging, amplify our objectives and outcomes so that the region, the country appreciates what we are doing. So partnerships, the fundraising drives are going to continue because we do understand and we do appreciate the fact that now ours is to ensure we sharpen, we enhance the skill sets of our members so that people out there realize that this is a serious function, it's a serious profession, like any other, that we need to pay much more attention to. And through PROW, we'll be able to empower them much more.
Well, time flies very fast, of course. Understanding more the relevancy of public relations, but also to get to know the changing landscapes of communication in Uganda is very vital. And how do we ensure that we have the right foundation, we move in the right direction, because that then will define how far we can go. How are you working with international bodies, Tina? Because globally, the number of bodies in as far as public relations, organizations, associations, and recently when we see bodies coming in to say, well, regulations here, qualifications here. Yes. So how are we moving in that direction?
So over the years, we've forged partnerships with a number of international organizations and regional organizations. We are currently in partnership or collaboration with the International Public Relations Association. We are in partnership with the Africa Public Relations Association, in partnership with the East Africa Public Relations Association, and then of course some other associations within Uganda. Because like I said in the beginning, we know and we appreciate the fact that we need to be in tune with what's happening around the world, around the continent, and around the region. So we've been very deliberate in our efforts to forge these partnerships. So these partnerships open us up to exposure to specialists in these organizations. So through webinars, seminars, conferences, panel discussions, as PROW, we are exposed to them. We are invited to speak, we are invited to participate and learn what is happening from other entities. And vice versa, we also invite them as well for our engagement so that they understand the Uganda market, our opportunities, our successes, and our challenges. So that has helped in terms of that two-way learning opportunity for both sides. So we continue to look for avenues to strengthen our relations with those organizations because we know more than ever that we are going to learn best practices from them and also vice versa.
Well, as I let you go, what is your parting shot?
Public relations is for everyone, Robert, not just as a profession, but even you as an individual. It is a profession that every single person must take seriously because how you shape perception, how you shape opinion starts with public relations. So we as PROW are undergoing efforts as we speak to work with different stakeholders, to engage different stakeholders on ways in which we can improve excellence of public relations people in this country and across the region. Because we know that now organizations are awake to the fact that they need public relations professionals. They see the value of public relations officials, but now it's making sure that we really emphasize the kind of value they can accrue from us being within these organizations. And we're happy we're making strides. We're happy with the efforts we've made so far. And we really do see this being one of the biggest game changers in terms of professions in this country.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you, Tina Wamala, President of the Uganda Public Relations Association. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Robert.
And of course, our viewers, I can never get tired of thanking you, those that were with us from 6:30 till now, and those that have come joining along the way. One important thing is always make it a date with us every morning from 6:30 till now. Anytime we'll be moving to the Office of the Prime Minister for the Manifesto Implementation Week. You can't afford to miss to know how far the current government under the NRM leadership has gone as far as fulfilling their pledge, their commitment to you, which was under the theme, securing your future, wealth creation and prosperity for all. Robert Chirabonyonyitono, wishing you a lovely day for God and my country. See you tomorrow, God willing. Good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda Extra.